Get moving here. Welcome to our Xtreme Hike info session for 2022. We really appreciate you joining tonight on behalf of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. My name is Jenny Anderson, and I am the newest staff member here at the Oregon and Southwest Washington chapter. So this is also my first year leading hike. So I'm excited to be experiencing this with everybody. I joined the foundation in October, after having been a volunteer for many years. And then I'm also the mom to a fierce little CF fighter named Finley. So that is where my connection to the foundation first started. For those of you who are new to the foundation, we are the world's leader in the search for a cure for cystic fibrosis. Nearly every CF drug available today was made possible because of the foundation's support. And just in this last year, we have seen the median age for those living with cystic fibrosis increase to 50 years for the first time in history. And there is also the new modulator drug Trikafta was approved for children ages 6 to 11. And this is kind of a game changer. This progress is not possible without the support of people who attend their events and who help fundraise. And so this year we are really excited to bring Xtreme Hike back to the Oregon and Southwest Washington chapter, kind of add that to our calendar of events. The inaugural hike took place in 2009 when two friends decided to take it on themselves to hike for a cure. And since then, there have been over 186 Xtreme Hike events hosted by over 21 different chapters across the country. I want to take a minute to thank both Samantha Baker and Faith O'Malley for really being the force to bring hike to our chapter. Fortunately, they worked very hard, and just as they were picking up steam building the hike program in 2020, COVID changed the landscape. And so just wanted to recognize that even in the midst of the challenges over the last 2 years, they were still able to register 54 hikers, many of whom tackled the full Wildwood Trail in Portland last year and have raised over $116,000 toward the mission through this program. So definitely excited that we are bringing the full hike experience to the Pacific Northwest again this year, as we hike on an 18.9 mile trail leading through the Mount Hood National Forest. Unlike the last 2 years when we were forced to limit the event to a single day, this year's event will be hosted over a full weekend. It's scheduled for the weekend of June 24th through the 26th. And with a commitment to fundraising, participants receive a training program, including monthly group training hikes, kind of intended to get you from the couch to the trail. You'll receive accommodations and meals for 3 days and 2 nights at the Mount Hood Village RV Resort. As you can see kind of in that top image on the slide, they have a little village of tiny houses and deluxe cabins. So we're really excited to have kind of this lodging component, which feels a bit safer, even in the midst of the current COVID landscape. Everybody can kind of have their team-centric cabins or places, but still a lot of outside area for groups to be able to mix and mingle. Once we get through recruitment, we'll work on teams to assign their lodging. Just note that most rooms are double or triple occupancy, but you will only be paired with members of your own team. The hike itself will be held on Saturday, June 25th, and hikers will receive transportation to and from the trail, grab and go meals and snacks. There will be aid and rest stations along the trail, along with first aid at the trailheads. We will follow the hike with a victory celebration on Saturday night. And then Sunday morning is kind of known as the magic of the weekend. It's when hikers come together for an award celebration. They recognize the success and the achievement that they took on the day before, and most importantly, recognize the fact that we are one step closer to finding a cure. As for the schedule, hikers will start checking in at the Mount Hood Village RV Resort, which is in Welches, Oregon, at 4 p.m. We will have a carb-heavy pasta dinner and safety briefing, approximately starting around 6 o'clock. Guests can kind of mix and mingle around their cabins for a portion of the evening, but we do recommend that night that it's kind of an early lights out so people can be rested and ready for bright and early start to the day on Saturday. We will have grab and go breakfast boxes available starting at 6 a.m. Saturday morning, and we'll get hikers organized into subgroups before heading to the trailhead between 6:30 and 7. Each group will stagger their start time by about 20 minutes so we don't have a lot of congestion along the trail route. And then that way we can also see groups finish at alternating times, and we'll stagger transportation back to the RV resort. We'll have dinner and celebratory drinks at approximately 7 p.m. that night, followed by an awards breakfast on Sunday morning starting around 10 o'clock. But you should be ready to start heading home around noon on Sunday the 26th for those of you who are traveling out from outside the Portland area. As for the trail, we are going to be hiking for a total of 18.9 miles with an elevation gain of just over 5,400 feet. We will start at the Paradise Park Trailhead, which is just off Highway 26 in Government Camp, and make our way up 5.4 miles to the intersection with the Pacific Crest Trail. So if you can kind of see my cursor here, it's this first stretch along here, and then the darker outlined is the PCT. The PCT is kind of one of the most renowned trails in the country, which stretches for over 2,650 miles from the border of Southern California, Mexico, all the way to the border of Washington and Canada. And so it's an absolute bucket list hike, and we're really excited to include that in this year's program. Along the trail, we will have multiple rest and aid stations with snacks and hydration and volunteers, ensuring that hikers are staying safe and comfortable. We are limiting this year's hike to no more than 25 total hikers. That's not including volunteers, but that allows us to kind of comply with trail guidelines, keep smaller groups that feel a bit more accessible, and then also be respectful of kind of general environmental stewardship. So each of those smaller groups will be led by a volunteer trail captain who is familiar with the route and can assist with directional or other kind of general concerns. In addition, we'll be contracting with EMT services who will be stationed at the different trailheads along the way in case of emergency or injury.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
Would you mind letting John into the meeting? He says he's in the waiting room.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's been admitted.
Oh, is he admitted? Okay, I didn't realize. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Thank
so
you.
Yeah, so the slide that's up on the screen right now kind of gives you a sense of each separate section of the hike. So most of those rest and aid stations will be every about 5 to 6 miles. And so this gives you a sense of the elevation gain in between each of those sections. The checkpoints 2 and 3 are going to be kind of more full access checkpoints where you have the ability to kind of really rest and regroup. That first checkpoint's a bit more of just kind of making sure that people are on their way, feeling good, having a snack. And then obviously that finish is the Lolo Pass Trailhead, which is where we hit that 18.9 mile mark. So one of the best ways to set up for success on the trail is to start training. So starting this weekend, we will kick off our 3-month training program with our first guided training hike. Each registered hiker will be provided with their own 3-month customizable training calendar, which is intended to really get you from the couch to the trail. We'll post weekly training tips as well as host monthly group hikes as part of your program. A lot of these hosted training hikes are in and around the Portland area, but we can certainly make recommendations for those of you who are coming from an outlying region and kind of help you determine what hikes might be good ways for you to get in shape in your own area. I'm going to move to this slide, which was put together by a lot of past hikers in terms of, how to best work the training program, recommendations outside of going on the Team hikes would include just create a training schedule that really works for you, work on strengthening your core, work on having cardio integrated into your day-to-day life, work on endurance and flexibility. So again, there's a lot of really good insight that comes from hikers who have done these events from in alternate locations. And so we'll send these out as tips throughout the program as well. It's really about just making sure that you're working on your stamina. You'll be on the trail for somewhere between potentially up to 10 to 12 hours on that day. And so it's really important to just start building your endurance early on. So while CFF covers meals and lodging and trail support, hikers are responsible for the majority of their own gear. We recommend working with a local outdoor store, telling them that you will be hiking 19 miles in a single day. A lot of times just being open about what you're trying to accomplish gives them the best opportunity to make appropriate recommendations. They can kind of steer you toward the best footwear, socks, or packs. And it's always a good idea to purchase these ahead of the event weekend so you can test them out on your training hikes. You know, brand new pair of boots when you're starting to work them in on the morning of the hike and starting to get those blisters is not the best way to start the extreme hike. And so we really reinforce to people to think about some of that ahead of time so that you don't run into those types of avoidable disasters on the trail. The most important thing to consider purchasing is a hydration system, and we strongly recommend up to a 3-liter. There are stretches on the trail without freshwater access, and so even with our rest and aid stations, it's still a good idea to have ample water, as you should be consuming somewhere between half to a full liter of water per hour. So we will cover additional gear recommendations and a packing list as we get closer to the event weekend. But again, I'm including this slide just to show you kind of what other people who have done the hikes in the past have found helpful. I noted hiking poles on the top, but we may be able to rent hiking poles if people are interested. So definitely don't go right out and buy them. Let us know if you're interested and we can kind of get some pricing and information from one of our local outdoor stores. Note that rest and aid stations are designed to fully support you. We do have options for nutrition and hydration, options for dropping gear if you're kind of shedding layers as you move throughout the hike. But if you do feel like you would need items in between those rest stops, that's where this list might come in helpful. So fundraising, in addition to really building your endurance and preparing for the physical challenge of the hike, we do ask that all registrants commit to a fundraising minimum of $2,500 each. Hike is a unique event. It's one of the only events at the foundation that really has this higher cost profile. And in order to make it sustainable, we have to ensure that a lot of those costs can be offset. Unlike some of our other walks where we get a lot of in-kind donations. So note that if you're registering as a team, though, the team just needs to average $2,500 each. But it's totally fine if you have one person on the team that brings in a little less and another person that brings in a little bit more, as long as that average comes out to the $2,500 each. You are good to go. So if you have 2 people on your team, you're technically expected to raise $5,000. If you have 4 people, you'd be expected as a team to raise $10,000. But again, even if it's a little bit split differently from one participant to another, that's just fine. We do have space available right now, so definitely help us get the word out and don't let fundraising be a deterrent. As someone who came to the foundation very new and very uncomfortable with traditional fundraising, I can tell you that raising $2,500 is not as hard as it sounds, especially for an event like Xtreme Hike where people are seeing you put in the time and seeing you put in the effort. For anybody who has direct connection with a CF fighter, people with cystic fibrosis work very, very hard to stay healthy. And so if you can equate your willingness to put in the work and effort on their behalf, a lot of times that really gives you a leg up in terms of making those asks. People want to see their donations go to a good cause. They want to see you work for their donations. So using your training hikes as content is really beneficial. Using multiple different mediums, including email and social media, Facebook fundraising, text. There's lots of different ways. Another key is sponsorship. So if you bring in a corporate sponsor, those dollars do count towards your individual minimum. It could be the company you work for, it could be your doctor, your dentist, it could be a restaurant or a coffee shop. Bottom line is, if you can start thinking outside of the immediate circle of friends and families, that can often be the difference and really bolster your totals. Another great way to fuel your progress is by using the Fight CF mobile app. So once registered for the event, you have this option to download the app. And from this platform, you can send emails, you can take advantage of their mobile check deposit feature. You can send thank you notes to their donors pretty much right in real time. And you can also link a Facebook fundraiser to the participant page. A lot of times that Facebook fundraising piece is a huge final push, and you can be fundraising up until the actual event weekend. Last year, our team raised an additional $1,000 on the day of our Great Rides event in Portland, just by posting it on Facebook. And because it stays within the Facebook platform, a lot of times that will get greater visibility than even your individual posts. I mentioned that also just to note that if you're creating a Facebook fundraiser, you definitely want to make sure that it is connected to your participant center. So as you can see here on the screen, there's a little button once you're logged in, either through the app or through your desktop version, where you can connect the fundraiser to Facebook right here. You can also start a fundraiser directly on Facebook and say, oh yes, we want the donations to go toward the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, but there's no way in that scenario to link it back to your hike page. So there's no way for us to see that it was really you recommending that based on your performance in the hike itself. So just kind of a side note there. Another thing to keep in mind when fundraising is just to try and have some fun with it. The Passion fundraising platform is a really great way to build on your existing network, and it kind of allows you to draw on your own passions and hobbies, and in a way to reach new donors. I posted some pictures here. Obviously, I'm a little embarrassed to put my children all over this slide, but just to give you a sense, our family has hosted a lot of different passion fundraisers over the last couple of years. We've done a lemonade and bake sale. We've sold homemade cloth masks. And then last year we hosted our first Scares for CF event, where we basically transformed our yard and garage into a haunted pathway. By hosting these events, we were able to draw in people from our neighborhood or people from our children's schools that we wouldn't necessarily have felt comfortable making a direct ask. So it's another just avenue to explore if you're looking at ways of hitting that $2,500 minimum. I also included this little flyer in the top corner here to just show you an example of that we as foundation staff are also always happy to work with you on creating both digital and print materials that you think might be able to help fuel your progress. This poster was specifically designed for our Great Strides campaign, but it certainly can be something that we tweak a little bit for hike. And it works really well if you have a business that's happy to let you put up a poster, or if you're looking for maybe a pinup campaign. So just know that we are here to help support that process if you have any ideas that you're looking for help from a design standpoint. Halfway through the campaign, we will check in with registered hikers to track progress from both a training standpoint as well as with fundraising. If for any reason you are feeling like you can no longer commit to meeting the goals, that's the point that we would just ask to check in, and we can discuss options. We can't unfortunately return any donations or move them to a different year or a different event, but we are always happy to brainstorm. We want to build this program, we want people to participate, and we want you to successfully reach that goal. So We've set that recommitment week for the week of April 25th through the 29th, but just know that we are also always here to answer questions or address concerns as we lead through the campaign. If you aren't sure about fully participating, or maybe you have a conflict with the date, we do have some other options available. You can register as a virtual hiker, where you wouldn't be held to the same fundraising minimum, but you can still enjoy kind of the different event incentives. You can also choose or hike your own trail at your own pace. In this case, you would still be welcome to participate in the training program and group hikes. You just wouldn't technically be in attendance for the actual in-person event weekend. We know that for some people, a full weekend away is tough, and others may not yet be comfortable committing to an in-person event. And so this would give you a bit more flexibility while still being able to participate and make a real difference. Another option is to volunteer. We're still looking for 1 to 2 more trail captains in addition to other support as we get closer to the event. So if you or you have anybody else in your network that might be interested in volunteering, definitely reach out to me. My email address is on the screen there, and I can provide some additional details about those opportunities. So unfortunately, we are still living in the world of COVID. And while things could drastically change by the time of our event, I am just noting the current COVID protocols for foundation events. We are still asking people to wear masks in group settings. And we also ask that registered hikers and volunteers be fully vaccinated. As part of the registration process, hikers are asked to complete a waiver, which firmly outlines those COVID stipulations. In addition, we have a separate waiver, which we will make available to anybody who is interested in participating in our group training hikes leading up to the big weekend. And I can send that out as a follow-up to this meeting. So next steps, definitely number 1 is to register. If you haven't registered yet, we would absolutely love to see you on the trail. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns about what that registration process looks like. Once you're registered, we recommend downloading the Fight CF app. Again, that allows you to kind of keep tabs on both fundraising and training. We recommend joining our Xtreme Hike Facebook group if you're on Facebook. We'll use that for weekly training reminders, fundraising tips, and it also gives you the chance to kind of communicate with other registered hikers. We'll also be sending weekly email out with up-to-date event guidelines, tips, and things like that as well. We recommend downloading both Strava and AllTrails. There are free versions of both of those apps, which give you plenty of the benefits, so don't feel like you need to pay for those, but those sites definitely help you keep track of your training program and also research trails in your area for some of your training as well. We recommend following our Facebook and Instagram chapter pages for general updates. We often will group news and incentives together with all of our peer-to-peer chapter events, so it's good to know what's happening across the board. And then lastly, we recommend and welcome you to join our group training hikes, with our first being this coming Sunday morning. We are meeting at 9 a.m. at the pavilion at Markham Nature Trail Park. Again, this is in Portland, so apologies to everybody on the call who is joining from a different location. Once we kind of get through the recruitment, we'll have a better sense of where people are coming from and can do some research and make recommendations for group hikes in those areas as well. This weekend's looking like it might be a little bit rainy here in Portland, but I am looking forward to getting out on the trail and starting to loosen up my muscles a little bit, and looking forward to anybody who would be willing to join. And then lastly, we are, before we open it up to questions, just wanted to reiterate that we will send a recording of this with some additional links and resources in an email tomorrow. But just thank you so much for taking the time to learn about this year's Xtreme Hike event. Both the general hike website as well as my contact information is noted on the slide there. So I am going to put my camera back on and open it up to anybody else who would like to ask any questions, or if anybody has any thoughts. Definitely want to welcome Faith O'Malley was on earlier and apologized that I totally stole some pictures of her from past events without asking her permission. So just wanted to say, hi Faith, thank you for letting me do that. So please feel free to take yourself off mute if anybody has any questions, and we can kind of go through. Let's see, we've got some on the chat here maybe. Oh, no, just nice comments. Thank you all. It's very thoughtful. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, I do have a question.
Sure.
So can people with CF do the hike?
Yes. So the benefit of staying at the Mount Hood Village RV Resort is that, again, it's kind of all outdoor access lodging. So that piece is definitely taken care of. We do have one person, Matt Posguy is registered. And then I know that Kristen Burdick had also expressed some interest. And so there are some people who I know are in our community that what we would want to do in that case is just work with you all about any indoor meal components. As of right now, all of our meals are slated to have an outdoor seated component because of COVID. So we kind of have that option available. So we would just want to make sure that we were carefully thinking about any times that the rest of the group would be congregating inside. But the benefit with kind of using the RV resort as our base is that even with their banquet facilities, we have options to do seating outside. So weather permitting, that won't be an issue.
Sure. And all of us are very well aware of how to interact amongst each other. So,
right.
I mean, we're not like kindergartners who,
Well, and I think that's what's so unique is, like the foundation has that firm line of no more than one person with CF indoors, but because hike is such a unique event where it stretches over a number of days, and for the most part, we will be outdoors. I know that they have had plenty of hikes where they have hosted people with CF, at the same event. So it's certainly not like we're the gala where we're really hard line to say no more than one person with CF at any time.
Okay. Because I had two goals. So I turned 40 in June and I had two goals. And one was to hike a section of the PCT or go to Iceland. So we decided to go to Iceland just because it's harder to congregate support and all that stuff for the trail hike.
Right.
And then I saw the email and I was like, okay, I literally have to do it because it's 3 days before my birthday.
Oh, fun. Well, and it'll be what we've heard. And again, it's kind of a nice stretch because you're on Mount Hood. There are good access points. It's not like we're dropping you off in the middle of like some of the where you really don't have a lot of opportunity for help along the PCT, but you're still experiencing the PCT.
Right.
We had initially really thought about using Timberline as a guide, but ended up transitioning to start at Paradise Park. So the total stretch of the PCT is about 13.5 miles, but that first 5.4 gets you up to that point without having to start right at Timberline. We're thinking late June, that's a better move based on possible snowpack.
Okay. And then, so when you guys talk about like the rest stops, will there like be a place to go to the bathroom?
So it's mostly just pack in, pack out when it comes to bathroom access. What we will do as part of our kind of preparation is have some materials available for people who might not be used to that. There are, I believe at most of the actual trail head points, they're like porta potties, but in terms of actually on the trail, hikers are going to have to kind of use their own, kind of like camping, I guess. Okay.
Fair enough. Just a very genuine question for someone with CF.
Nope, it's a great question for sure. Okay. And again, that's where, we wanted to make sure that the trail was extreme, but also for our first year doing the full extended hike outside of the Portland proper area, we really wanted to make sure that we stayed somewhere that felt accessible, where there was additional options for support. So there are those stretches where like that first trailhead is going to be more of kind of an easier check-in point, easier rest stop. Whereas then when we do the second rest stop, we're hoping to stop at Ramona Falls, which will be a bit more, people will hike in additional resources for hikers. So you guys don't have to kind of carry everything the whole way.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to note, Faith put a link about going to the bathroom in the outdoors in the chat, if anyone's interested in that. And then Jenny, I was looking at the map, but I want to make sure it's right. Is it you start at one spot and you go one direction and stop? So like an out and back, not a turnaround?
Neither. So we will go point to point.
Oh, yeah.
So we start at the Paradise Park Trailhead, which is about 10 minutes drive from the RV resort. We end at the Lolo Pass Trailhead, which is about 25 minutes. So it kind of loops you through. The road kind of sinks up and around, which you can't really see from the map picture, unfortunately, but you are hiking that full 18.9 miles in basically one direction. And then we will have the transportation available to take hikers to and from. Great question, Christy. Thanks. Any other questions before we kind of wrap up? Very excited that we have a good crew of people registered already, and just thank you all for joining tonight and being interested. It should be a really, really fun event. And from what we've heard from a lot of the other chapters who have hosted numerous of the full weekend experience hikes is that it's a pretty powerful weekend. Well, with that being said, then I certainly won't hold everybody any longer. I will absolutely send out some additional information materials to everybody who is on the call tonight. I'll include a copy of the recording in case you have friends or family or anybody who is interested or might not have been able to make it in person. Like I said, whether you're planning to register or not, you are more than welcome to join a group of us on Sunday morning for a rainy hike in Portland, if that sounds enjoyable. Apologies that my 8-year-old is coming as well, so we'll see how far we get. But yeah, just really, really looking forward to being a part of this program, and thank you all for coming on this journey with us. Okay. Have a great night, everybody.